the top 10 directors of 2000 to 2010. When we think of horror movies, the mind behind the camera is just as important as what we see on screen. Between 2000 and 2010, a decade marked by cultural shifts and technological advancements, directors emerged who challenged conventions and created works that redefined the genre. Today, we'll explore the 10 most iconic directors who kept us awake during those dark nights. Before we dive into the list, subscribe to the Dark Top 10 channel and turn on the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any content. Here, horror reigns supreme. The turn of the millennium brought a new breath to horror cinema. Advancements in visual effects, the globalization of Asian cinema, and the growing influence of real-world events on storytelling transformed the genre. Directors of this decade faced the challenge of capturing contemporary fears while honoring the traditions of classic horror. From zombies to exorcisms, psychological horrors to visceral brutality, they tackled it all. Let's dive into the masters who defined this period. 10th place, Scott Derrickson, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, 2005. Scott Derrickson stood out by blending horror with courtroom drama. Inspired by real events, The Exorcism of Emily Rose balances terrifying scenes with philosophical questions about faith and science. Derrickson's direction creates an oppressive atmosphere that challenges the audience to face their own inner fears. Box office, $144 million. Critics, 43% on Rotten Tomatoes, with praise for Jennifer Carpenter's performance. Impact, a cult classic that combines psychological horror with dramatic elements. Trivia, Derrickson based many courtroom scenes on real transcripts from the case that inspired the film. 9th place, Alexandre Aja, The Hills Have Eyes, 2006. With The Hills Have Eyes, Alexandre Aja reinvented the remake, delivering a brutal and visceral film. He takes us on a journey of despair through desolate landscapes and characters struggling to survive. The director spares no one from shocking scenes, solidifying his name in contemporary horror. Box office, $70 million, budget of $15 million. Critics, 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. Impact, recognized for redefining the extreme horror subgenre and highlighting Emily de Ravin. Trivia, Aja used remote desert locations to heighten the character's sense of isolation. 8th place, Takashi Shimizu, The Grudge, 2004. Takashi Shimizu brought Japanese horror to international fame with The Grudge, an adaptation of his own Japanese classic Ju-on. The film features a fragmented narrative and a suffocating atmosphere while exploring the curse that haunts anyone who comes into contact with it. Shimizu is a master of crafting disturbing images that linger in memory. Box office, $187 million. Critics, 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. Impact, popularized Asian horror in the West. Trivia, the director ensured much of the original Japanese cast remained for authenticity. 7th place, Neil Marshall, The Descent, 2005. Neil Marshall delivered pure claustrophobia in The Descent. With a predominantly female cast, the film stands out for its innovative narrative and for creating both psychological and physical tension. Marshall masterfully uses the darkness and tight spaces of the caves to maximize fear. Box office, $57 million, budget of $3.5 million. Critics, 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. Impact, one of the decade's most praised horror films for its originality. Trivia, all the caves seen in the movie were recreated in the studio, as filming on real locations would have been too dangerous. 6th place, Rob Zombie, The Devil's Rejects, 2005. Rob Zombie brought a raw and violent approach to horror in The Devil's Rejects. This film blends horror with elements of westerns and road movies. Zombie shows a unique talent for creating charismatic and terrifying villains, making his style instantly recognizable. Box office, $19 million. Critics, 55% on Rotten Tomatoes. Impact, established Rob Zombie as a cult director in the genre. Trivia, Zombie based the characters on real-life serial killers, adding an extra layer of authenticity. 5th place, Sam Raimi, Drag Me to Hell 2009. After years away from horror, Sam Raimi returned with Drag Me to Hell, a blend of horror and comedy reminiscent of his Evil Dead works. Raimi proves his mastery in balancing scares and laughs, creating a unique experience. Box office, $90 million. Critics, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. Impact, a triumphant return of a horror master. Trivia, Raimi insisted on using practical effects whenever possible, bringing a rare authenticity to the film. 4th place, James Wan Saw 2004. James Wan revolutionized horror with Saw, introducing the concept of torture porn to the world. His ability to create suspense and twist put him on the map as one of the greatest names in the genre. Box office, $103 million, budget of $1.2 million. Critics, 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Impact, a masterclass in doing much with little, inspiring a new generation of indie filmmakers. Trivia, the script was written in just a week and filmed in 18 days. 3rd place, Guillermo del Toro, Pan's Labyrinth 2006. Guillermo del Toro blended fantasy and horror in Pan's Labyrinth. Though not purely horror, the film explores psychological terrors and unsettling scenes, all with a stunning aesthetic. Box office, $83 million. Critics, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. Impact, a masterpiece that transcends the horror genre. Trivia, Del Toro waived his director's salary to ensure the film was made his way. 2nd place, Danny Boyle, 28 Days Later, 2002. Danny Boyle reinvented zombies in 28 Days Later. His dynamic visual style and approach to the zombie apocalypse brought freshness to the genre. Box office, $82 million. Critics, 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. Impact, redefined the concept of zombie movies for modern audiences. Trivia, the film was one of the first to use digital cameras to capture low-light scenes. 1st place, Christopher Nolan, Memento 2000. While not strictly horror, Memento delivers unparalleled psychological horror. Christopher Nolan creates an intriguing narrative that explores the human mind and its limits, challenging the audience to unravel its mysteries. Box office, $40 million. Critics, 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Impact, a cornerstone for fans of horror and suspense. Trivia, Nolan used a reverse narrative structure to intensify the psychological impact. Did you enjoy our list? Which director of this decade left the biggest mark on you? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Dark Top 10 and hit the notification bell for more spine-chilling content. See you in the next video, where fear never leaves the screen.